Hey CFE, it's Thursday. We're back talking about the 10 general physical skills. Last week I was talking about how CrossFit views this list of 10. Quick recap, the 10 skills are cardio-respiratory endurance, stamina, flexibility, strength, speed, power, balance, coordination, agility, and accuracy. Those are our 10 general physical skills. If you were to survey any athlete or any person in the population to say, hey, do you think an increase in any one of these 10 domains would benefit your life? The answer almost 100% of the time would be yes. That's why we call them the 10 general physical skills. We can organize these two different ways. CrossFit likes to organize them into organic and neurological adaptations. So our organic adaptations would be things like cardiorespiratory endurance and stamina, strength, flexibility. Those are the organic ones. And then the neurological would be speed and power, and then the next four: balance, coordination, accuracy, and agility. We can also overlay these 10 general physical skills onto the the development hierarchy that CrossFit has come up with. So last week I was talking about how cardiorespiratory endurance and stamina would fit into that Metcon or work capacity piece. Flexibility, strength, speed, and power would fit into our bodyweight gymnastics, weightlifting, and throws, that middle chunk. This is where the bulk of CrossFit training lives. So again, a quick recap: at the bottom of the pyramid, we've got nutrition. This is what fuels our body. We've got metabolic conditioning, bodyweight and gymnastics, weightlifting and throws, and then at the top of the pyramid, sport. All of the training that we do in CrossFit happens in that middle block: metabolic conditioning, bodyweight gymnastics, weightlifting, and throws. And flexibility, strength, power, speed, they fit into those. And then balance, accuracy, coordination, and agility, those would fit into our sport-specific skills. Now, we're still going to practice those in CrossFit. All of the movements we do have elements of balance, accuracy, coordination, and agility. But we're just trying to kind of like overlay things a little bit. When you practice sport-specific skills, they are dominated by those qualities: balance, accuracy, coordination, and agility, whereas training is dominated by things like strength, speed, power, flexibility, and those other ones. So what I want to do today is, I'm getting a little bit distracted and rambled. I actually, in my notes, I put stretch instead of strength, and it is just distracting me to no end. So today we're going to do a bit more of a deep dive into what cardiorespiratory endurance and stamina is, or work capacity, metabolic conditioning. This model of bioenergetics used to be quite complicated. We would often reference this graph. I'll go this way for your guys's. And we've got our phosphocreatine system, which is our high power, short duration, fast to fatigue energy system. And then we've got our glycolytic pathway, which is moderate power, moderate duration, moderate resistance to fatigue. And then our aerobic system, which is this like low bar, long duration, low power, extremely resistant to fatigue energy system. So we've got these three dominant energy systems. Now we're starting to look at things in a different way. And I like this new definition of VO2 max that I was only just recently introduced to in the last couple of years. And the way that they explain it now is the maximum integrated capacity of the pulmonary, cardiovascular, and muscular system to uptake, transport, and utilize oxygen, respectively. So let's break that down. The integrated capacity of the pulmonary, cardiovascular, and muscular to uptake, transport, and utilize, respectively. So the pulmonary system is what uptakes the oxygen. The cardiovascular system is what transports the oxygen, and the muscular system is what uses all of that oxygen up. So let's look at the cardiovascular system. Stage 1, pulmonary, the lungs. This is going to include our respiratory muscles, the muscles that actually do the pumping of air in and out, and the ability for our lungs to functionally perfuse oxygen in and carbon dioxide out. So we've got this kind of like this looped system. Blood comes into, so it's going to come into the heart here on Oh, I'm working in a hard mirror here. Okay, it's going to come into the heart on this side. Right? My heart's over here, actually. I'm a mirror for you guys. So the blood comes in on this side. It gets pumped back out to my lungs, comes back into my heart on this side, and then gets pumped out into my muscles. So as it comes into my heart, it's been used. This blood, it doesn't have any oxygen left into it. It comes into my heart and then it gets sent to my lungs. And the job of my lungs is to re-oxygenate that blood. Think of like a fish tank, right? Like the fish tank has an aerator. It circulates the water so that oxygen comes into the water. We need to re-oxygenate that blood, and that happens in my lungs, right? Now, what brings air into my lungs is my respiratory muscle. So my diaphragm, as it contracts down and up, it pulls air into my lungs. And then as I exhale like this, the muscles of my rib cage contract down and they suck and push that air back out. There's also accessory breathing muscles up here in the muscles of the ribs that open my rib cage up like this. So my diaphragm is contracting down, my ribs are opening up, and then everything goes like this to blow air out. So that's the respiratory muscles bringing air in. And then there's going to be this barrier where the inside of my lungs meets the blood, and oxygen is going to move across that barrier and oxygenate my blood. The quality of my blood, hemoglobin content, is what's going to determine the oxygen carrying capacity of my blood. That's kind of like at this interface between the heart part of cardiovascular and the lung side of cardiovascular. But that's where we would transition now into the heart. So we've got the endurance capacity function of our respiratory muscles and the ability to perfuse oxygen across that barrier and make our blood oxygenated. Then it's going to come back to the heart and it's going to get sent out to the body. Now, the qualities that we're looking for in the heart, number one is going to be cardiac output. So how much blood can my heart pump in a given time period? And that's going to come down to a couple different factors. One, the amount of blood that I have in my body. If I've got more blood in my body, then I can pump more blood throughout it. It's going to have a higher capacity to carry oxygen. The next one is, as my heart pumps, how much blood gets pumped out per pump. Let's say it's 1 unit of blood. If I can increase that to 2 units of blood per pump, I've doubled my cardiac output. And then the next is, how fast can my heart pump? So if I, do lots of work to improve my cardiac output by increasing stroke volume, the amount of blood that gets pumped per pump, that's great. Now, if I can increase how many pumps I can do, and I've got double the amount of volume getting pumped out and double the amount of pumps, now I'm 4 times more efficient at the heart. And then the endurance of that heart to just keep pumping at a really, really aggressive speed. So that's the next piece, is the blood comes into the lungs, it gets oxygen in it, and then it's up to the heart. How much blood can it move, and how many times can it move that volume of blood in a given time span, right? Blood volume, oxygen carrying capacity, so our hemoglobin content, how much oxygen can our blood actually carry. And then as it leaves the heart, now it's going to enter our vascular systems, cardiovascular and respiratory endurance. Our vascular system is our arteries. Things leave the heart and they're in these great big arteries. These are the super highways, the highway 1, it goes all the way across Canada of our body. And then it breaks into arterioles, capillaries, and then our body has special systems that can preferentially open and close these capillaries and arterioles. So let's say I'm doing a really, really intense bike workout. I don't need a lot of blood in my arms for this bike workout. My body can preferentially close up the capillaries in the muscles in my arms, and they can open up the muscles in my legs. It also has the ability over time to grow more capillaries and capillarize those muscles so that more blood is being transported to the working muscle. So think about it like, You know, you're building a new subdivision. That subdivision needs roads, it needs services, power, sewer, water. The body slowly builds those services into the muscle so that they can be more efficient. And then that's our delivery thing. So coming back, the integrated capacity of the pulmonary, cardiovascular, and muscular, that comes next. To uptake, we're taking in oxygen. Transport, the cardiovascular system is the transport side. So respiratory and pulmonary, that's the uptake. Cardiovascular, that's the transport or delivery. And then utilization happens at the muscle. And there's a couple different factors that go into that. One would be fiber type. You may have heard of type 1 and type 2. Within type 2, there's type 2A, B, and X. They're different fiber types. They have different contractile properties. Some are kind of like slower contractions, but with that slower contraction comes a very high resistance to fatigue. Some are really, really aggressive, sharp, fast, twitchy contractions, but with that comes a low resistance to fatigue. If we've got the right balance, or one side heavier or the other, to fatigue resistance or non-fatigue resistance fibers, that's going to have a different impact on our fitness or our work capacity. So if we're dominated by fast fatigue muscle fibers, then we're very likely going to be fast to fatigue. If we're dominated by slow to fatigue muscle fibers, we're going to be slower to fatigue. Mitochondrial density, that's a big one. The mitochondria lives in the muscle cell, and it's what creates the energy that our body uses for muscular contraction. If we've got lots and lots of mitochondria and we've got a great transport system, then we can create tons and tons and tons of energy. And even if we've got fast to fatigue muscle fibers, because there's such a great energy supply, they won't run out of energy as quickly. The same goes if we've got slow to fatigue. Those guys are never going to run out of energy. If there's lots of engines burning and lots of supply, and the demand isn't super duper high, then we're just going to be able to go almost indefinitely forever. And then a little bit outside of the scope of this, one more thing that will influence VO2 max that I do want to talk about, but I'm not going to dive into, is the modality of the exercise and the economy of the effort. And this is a really, really important one, especially in CrossFit. It's just basically how well our body moves to perform the task. So one of the best examples I can think of is a wall ball. If I do a good wall ball, the wall ball's under my chin, I do a squat, I use my legs do most of the work, my arms just kind of maybe 10% throw, aim the ball, catch down, use the legs again. But if I'm bending over, touching the ball to the ground every time, and then throwing it out, you can imagine how that ball's covering so much more distance. I'm using my lower back more than I'm using my legs. I'm using a lot of arms and shoulders. I would fatigue much quicker in that scenario than if I were to do a good quality wall ball using my legs as the primary driver, maintaining good posture. So there's all of these factors that go into work capacity from a bioenergetic standpoint, and that is cardiorespiratory endurance and stamina. The cardiorespiratory endurance is our heart and our lungs and our transport system. The stamina is the utilization side of things, thinking about our lungs, the ability to uptake oxygen and then perfuse that oxygen into the blood, the heart's ability to pump it out, and then the vascular system's ability to transport it along, and then our muscles' ability to utilize that fuel that we've provided with it through mitochondrial density and muscle fiber type. Holy moly, I can't believe I did that in one take. Deep dive topic, one of my favorites. It's something that I've been learning quite a bit about over the years. I mean, probably for 10 years, it's been a curious subject of mine. So I hope you guys were able to keep up on that. If you have any specific questions, or maybe specific questions in terms of how this applies to you as an athlete, whether that be a CrossFit athlete or an athlete outside of the gym, drop those questions in the comment. I would really love to dig into that. I'll see you next week.